Welcome to Girls Who Read Porn. Please be advised that this podcast contains mature content for mature audiences. The title might have given that away though. We would also advise you triple check the trigger warnings of each book prior to the episode, and if it's not for you, we'll see you next week. Each episode includes major spoilers, so make sure you read the book, and don't say we didn't warn you. With all that in mind, on with the show. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Girls Who Read Porn. I'm here with the usual crew, which is Ola.
Hi.
And G.
Hi.
How's everybody today?
Good today.
I'm tired. I walked like 25,000 steps yesterday. Or like 30,000 or something. It was a lot.
We'll find out why soon.
Yeah.
This week we have a recurring author, which would be Tille Cole, who I personally love very dearly. This is my book this week.
We all love Tille Cole's Lord of London Town.
We did.
That one got a 5-star from everyone. Yeah.
And this week this is her most popular series. So G was just telling me before that Lord of London Town isn't actually like her most popular book.
Doesn't even touch the top 10.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, it's like if you're on it, you know, like how on Goodreads they organize them by like most rated. Yeah, it's you have to like scroll right down to find Lord of London Town. Yeah, she's got really big series ahead of it, and this is the main one.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is like her biggest. This is her biggest book series, which is weird because I preferred Lord of London Town over this book. This book is just as good, but I preferred Lord of London Town. So we'll get into ratings, and then I'll read the synopsis, and then we'll do what we usually do. So for me, I'm going to give this a 4-star. This is a 4-star for me.
Nice. I reckon I'm going to go for like a 4.5 because it made me really want to read the next one.
Yeah, I want to read the next one, but at the moment it's like a 4, but maybe if I continue with the series, it could go with a 5 because there's still a lot of questions unanswered.
Yeah.
It's like a 2.5 or a 3 for me. I hated this book.
Really?
I hated it. I found it so difficult to read it. I thought it was, we'll get into it. But,
what was it?
There were things that I liked about it, don't get me wrong, but I thought you wrote Lord of London Town. This could have been so much better.
I found it quite similar in style and content to Lord of London Town.
I didn't. I don't know why. I just thought it was not as well done. The ends weren't met, like, not the storyline, because I know that there are more books, but just their storyline was kind of not tied together well for me.
We'll go into specifics in a second. I will just read the synopsis, but bear with me because it's quite a long synopsis.
The blurb? Or
the blurb?
The blurb, sorry, is quite long. So, sinning never felt so good. A fortuitous encounter, a meeting that should never have happened. Many years ago, two children from completely different worlds forged a connection, a faithful connection, an unbreakable bond that would change their lives forever. Salome knows only one way to live, under Prophet David's rule. In the commune she calls home, Salome knows nothing of life beyond her strict
Stop
faith.
saying Salome, it's Salome.
Is it Salome?
Yeah, that's why her nickname is May.
I read the whole thing as Salome. Maybe because I know somebody with that name.
With another name? What was the other name that she did this with?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
But I know somebody with that name that's spelt that way.
Salome,
and I know nothing about the Bible.
Biblical.
Salome.
But I know someone called Salome.
I feel like your Jew is just popping out, to be honest.
Because
it's very similar to Shalom.
Don't worry about
Jew
it.
is just like coming out to party.
Okay. Salome knows nothing of life beyond her strict faith, nor of life beyond the fence. The fence that cages her keeps her trapped in an endless cycle of misery. A life she believes she is destined to always lead until a horrific event sets her free. Fleeing the absolute safety of all she has ever known, Salome is thrust into the world outside, a frightening world full of uncertainty and sin, into the protective arms of a person she believes she would never see again. River Styx Nash knows one thing for certain in life. He was born and bred to wear a cut. Raised in a turbulent world of sex, Harleys, and drugs, Styx unexpectedly has the heavy burden of the Hades hangman gavel thrust upon him, and all at the ripe old age of 26, much to his rival's delight. Haunted by a crushing speech impediment, Stick quickly learns to deal with his haters. Powerful fists, an iron jaw, and the skillful use of his treasured German blade has earned him a fearsome reputation as a man not to be messed with in the shadowy world of outlaw MC. A reputation that successfully keeps most people far, far away. Styx has one rule in life: never let anyone get too close. It's a plan that he has stuck to for years, that is, until a young woman is found injured on his lot. A woman who looks uncannily familiar, a woman who clearly does not belong in his world, yet a woman he feels reluctant to let go. Whew.
It's a good blurb.
It is a
good blurb, and
it pulls you in. It pulls you in.
Yeah, it pulls you in, but it doesn't really reveal too much. That's nice.
No.
Okay. Well, let's start with the usual favourites.
Oh, the twist.
Yeah.
Easily.
Oh, yeah.
The twist was a good amazing. Twist. That was a great twist. I thought that, like, I wasn't expecting it. And I really, like, I wasn't expecting it. I
saw it coming from a mile away.
This is the one time where I was just like, fuck, really? Like, I was just like, oh, okay, some other Catholic kid. But, you know, maybe for me it's a little bit different, and for other, like, really brought up in Catholic religion kids, because it's normal to know Bible verses and stuff like that if you're brought up in Catholicism. So I just thought he was a Catholic kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like at school I remember people being like, you know, John 3-4, whatever the fuck it is, and people would be like, oh yeah, you know that Bible verse or whatever. So it wasn't strange to know those things. So for me it was actually quite a shock.
I found it, yeah, like really with that bit especially, I kind of like, once they sort of knew that they had a rat and it got like further down, I was like, oh, if it's him, it'll be like too obvious. But then it was him. So it was a weird like double fake.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the moment I knew was when they were killing who they thought the rat was, and then they kept like flicking between like Ryder's like views on the situation, like how he was feeling about what was happening, and then like the guy getting killed, and then from that moment where like Styx was like flicking before in between the two of them, I was like, oh, he's like the actual rat.
Yeah.
Not the prospect.
I felt so sorry for that kid.
Yeah.
Oh, the prospect.
It felt a little bit too easy. I definitely knew it wasn't the kid straight away, because it's like, well, that's obviously like planted evidence. I was like,
yeah, and he was so happy.
Yeah, he was
like,
just
he's
nice.
The happiest person ever, and she had to kill off the one happy guy. Like the one person with the soul, she had to kill him off. Fucking Tilly.
I think my favorite part about this book was, I think MC always follows a very specific plot thing, which is like you have like the dark and broody guy, and then the innocent, not used to the MC life woman, and like he's never gonna take on like an old lady, and then she's just like so different, he like has to take her on, and I like that trope. Like I enjoy that trope, but this was that trope, but then like so bizarrely unique.
On crack.
It was like, yeah, that trope, but like as extreme as it could possibly be.
Version of it.
Which is like, I enjoyed it, because if you're gonna follow a trope which is like enjoyed by many, like make it weird, like make it completely out of the blue, like the most original idea. I would have never ever put an MC and a cult together in my head and been like, that's a good book, like I should write that.
It is like the most extreme version of it.
Yeah, but it's good because I've never read anything like that, and I never thought I would.
Yeah, I think my favorite part about it was in her author's note in the beginning, when she says that when she was studying for her degree and her master's, that she worked with people that had gotten free from cults, and she based a lot of Salome's experiences on interviews that she'd undertaken with other women. So I thought that was really good, because it really did add an element of like a bit more reality. Even though the shit that was happening was so extreme, like the structure and stuff of the cult, just knowing that it was based on other women's experiences, like coming out of the cult and like not knowing anything, you know, thinking that everything outside was going to be completely evil. That I really liked that.
That's my least favorite part.
Really? Was it was based on real experiences?
No, I'm fine with things being based on real experiences. The way that she portrayed it, I thought was kind of strange because it felt kind of forced to me, where she was like, I need to show like the worst parts of it, but then they weren't like rounding the story up. So for example, one of the biggest issues for me in this was they kept talking about how malnourished she was, right? And there was like no doctors, there was like no IV, that like normal things that people would put in books if like somebody was malnourished. She just kind of like skirted over it.
She was hooked up to an IV. She was hooked up to an IV.
Yeah, but like, you know, if somebody's like that malnourished as she would have been, I reckon it didn't fit right. Like, it didn't feel like they dealt with it properly. Like, they weren't, if that's going to be a plot point, the fact that she's malnourished, you need to like go further into it, like the food and whatever else, like trying to get her healthy. And, you know, it just felt like things like that were overlooked, and they didn't organize for her to go speak to someone. Like, she went through massive trauma, like the most responsible thing
they do address that, like why they couldn't do things like that. Like, she couldn't even leave the compound, she couldn't go anywhere because they were being watched constantly. Yeah. So, and also you've got to think about it, like if she's like malnourished, like there's a difference between like, I don't know, being clinically malnourished and somebody on the street seeing you and going like, they look malnourished. Like, she could have just been pale and skinny. Like,
I don't know.
I think it's one of those things of,
I didn't like that.
This book was not necessarily about real life getting out of a cult and the decoding of like religious traumatic teaching. Like, it touched on the idea, but it wasn't realistic. It was not a representation of what it's like to actually leave a cult and have to experience.
Then she shouldn't have wrote at the beginning that she was basing it on true stories.
I think it was like, but I think it's not necessarily that, because it touches on what maybe cults have been like and how you feel and like what you may perceive when you leave a cult. But I don't think at once she wanted it to be like a serious,
like an exact retelling of
Sure.
Because I think it's a really intense topic, and like to go into like that much detail, it probably couldn't be a Smut book.
Yeah, but then at the beginning you can't say I'm basing this on real life stuff, because you don't know what is real life and what isn't. Like, I felt like that's
I feel like it's more like the author's note was more sort of mentioned to say that, like, you know, that was where she got her inspiration and what she drew from in order to write.
But she's claiming like it's real life events that actually occurred.
No, that's not what she's claiming. That isn't what she's claiming.
That some of the things that happened in this book happened to people in real life. That's what it says at the beginning.
I think it's more
within the cult, not the
like people's experiences leaving cults, like what it feels like to, you know, see everything for the first time or learn new things.
I don't know. I just don't think that like you should write something like that at the beginning if you're not gonna. If we don't know what part is true, what isn't, then I don't think you should write that shit in the beginning.
I just like don't think you can expect serious breakdown of like cult trauma decoding and expression of like refining yourself in the world like from a Smut novel. I think you have to go into a little bit of like
totally. I agree with what you're saying there, but then if you're just going to do a cult novel, then don't base it on like true stories. Then just leave it as like a simple Smut novel. Don't turn it in. If you're trying to make it into something serious because you're copying true stories, then make it serious. But if you're not, then just don't mention that it's based on true stories of people that you know who have gone through cults.
I don't know. I don't agree, but that's fine.
Yeah, I just thought it was a little bit odd and distasteful. Yeah, I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, this is kind of fucked, because, you know, these people, it's their true stories, right? So there are some people who did go through those horrible things in the book, which is awful. Like, could not imagine. And it's been turned into something that is less serious, that is less, I don't know how to explain it. That doesn't explain the gravity of what they actually went through. Because if somebody's leaving a cult, it's traumatic. It's a horrible experience. And then they were like, oh, she found a man and she's fine. And they're copying stories of what actually happened to people in the cults. And they were vile stories, what she was putting in there. And it's great that she's getting it out there, don't get me wrong, but maybe don't put it in a smut novel.
I don't know. I guess you can like say that about like any dark romance though, because there's dark romances that scope like every form of trauma that a human could possibly go through within a smut novel, and like you just go into it with like a feeling of like this is not like a real, it might be a real experience because obviously out there someone will have experienced one of these things that have happened in the plethora of dark romances out there. But you just have to go into it being like it might be a real experience, but it probably won't be a real healing experience. Like none of these dark romance novels that we've ever read ever encapsulate correctly how people might possibly heal from this trauma ever. And they'll never do that because it's not the kind of like books that they are. And it's, I guess, why people put trigger warnings on their books, because if you are a person that has suffered from that particular trauma, you will understand what it feels like to heal from that trauma, and that might not be the book for you to read because it will never encapsulate your emotions or your feelings towards an event.
I feel like that touches on like what we've talked about before as well, how like the reason why like things that are portrayed in books is so much different is because like it's fiction, like it's always fiction.
But the thing is that this isn't all fiction.
I literally just read the author's note, and it only says that it is inspired by several people that she talked to after they left cults. So it's just like just that aspect of it, I think, was just inspired by the women.
Okay.
But it's the same way that none of these other romance... I
honestly just think that, like, if she was just like, you know, I'm writing a cult novel, whatever, I would have been like, fine. But the fact that she was like going on about her masters and whatever else and blah, 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 that turned me off it for some reason. Because it's like you're using people's stories and then you're turning it into something entertaining for somebody else. And that just... yeah.
But to be honest, like that could be said about like every dark romance
but they don't
novel.
mention it.
But I feel like every dark romance novel will have someone's lived experience in it that's being used as a form of entertainment.
Probably, but they don't really mention it. I've never read one before where it was mentioned like that.
But we have heard of authors that like write their own trauma.
Sure, but that's their own trauma, so they can, like Jade West, for example, not trauma, but like her own experience. But that's how she perceives it. She's writing it for herself, whereas Tille is writing it about other people.
Fair enough. I feel like we're going to
like disagree on this, but I actually feel super strongly about this. I was just like, this feels wrong. Like when I was reading it, I was like, it's a great book. Don't get me wrong, like the storyline is amazing, but that just like felt gross to me. I couldn't.
But I also guess it's like your proximity and your relationship with religion will change your perspective on this.
Probably,
because like
that's also really, really likely.
Yeah,
because I hate religious shit. I don't have a problem with reading cult stuff. I actually think that it's really cool. And if she didn't put that thing in the beginning, I know that I would love it. But I also think like at some parts, she just went too far. Like the 8-year-old thing, I was like, fuck, how am I meant to find the rest of this book sexy at all after reading this?
Do you get what I mean? But it's like on the same vein as like, it's the same vein as like Hunting and Haunting Adeline, right? Like, you know, everybody has their particular tastes. Yeah, I know you did, but you know what I mean? Like, you write for the people that want to read your books, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Because Hunting and Haunting Adeline is rough stuff as well, right? So I just don't know how we're meant to find a book sexy if there's an 8-year-old child getting assaulted in it.
Well, it's like the same thing with like, I don't understand how people find Hunting and Haunting Adeline sexy, but they do.
I don't either. I think they're insane. Like, I just don't. But
there is other books that we've read. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. But
do you know which one that I actually? There's only one that I feel so much guilt for finding it sexy, and then I was repulsed by it afterwards. Was Jade West's "Strangers in My Bed"?
That's what I was about to say. I was about to reference
then, like,
that book.
We backtracked and we were like, "How the fuck could we find this sexy?"
But that's like the point, right?
She
like,
also said it wasn't a romance in the end of it.
What else was there? Sea of Ruin was like that too. There was a graphic essay scene.
Yeah, but it was an adult. And not that it makes it okay.
I don't think that minimizes.
No. It doesn't minimize it, but I just think that if, like, when we read these books, often we have to be so careful. When we read these books, often in those instances, it's something that you're prepared to read, right? Like you're prepared. That might be one of the triggers. You go into it thinking, okay, if this is going to happen, it's going to happen to an adult. But like I went into this book knowing that one of the triggers was SA, and I just wasn't expecting it to happen to a minor. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's okay that it happened to an adult. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. It's just like logically, whenever like find it difficult to find books sexy when there is any SA in it at all, just full stop. But yeah, I just thought it was extra hardcore because it was a minor.
No, I get it, but like I think it's like we read a lot of books where the main characters have a history of trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To like a varying degree. Like it's a very big thing in dark romance that someone has to overcome something to like reach a point where like they're at the best of who they are, right? So in this book, her trauma is obviously more extreme than what we've probably read in other books or what you've personally read in other books. Like I can't speak for everybody. And it's like, I think it's like fine not to like it. Like these books aren't written for those things. Like for me personally, it was just like part of her story. She reclaimed like her sexual liberation. Like that was the sexy part about it. Like she took, something was taken from her. She flipped it on its head, reclaimed it, and then owned her body in a way that she wanted to use it. And that's why it was sexy for me. But like I can understand why other people might not find that sexy.
Yeah. I just found it difficult to separate it, if that makes sense. Like to me, it wasn't like a smut novel. It was more her story.
I was actually gonna say that like I didn't find this book like I don't even know if like sexy is like the right word to describe a book like this. Like I just feel like that sort of word like it shouldn't be used like on the scale of something like this, you know?
Yeah. Like it's kind of
it's just but it was a good story. It was a good book. Like the writing was good, the telling was good. I liked it. That's what I'm reading it on. Not like how it made me, not like how hot it made me.
Yeah, like I look at it and I don't think this is a romance novel. I think this is a story of somebody finding themselves after going.
I think it is romance, but like more about love than sex.
Yeah, okay, so it's like a love romance novel instead of smart. Yeah, right? It's not porn.
I think that's where the story was. Yeah. Was like the love.
Yeah. So like beautiful love story. Loved that for her. Amazing. Like genuinely, but I just like find it difficult to put it in that kind of.
But I think this is like a good segue into like just a general conversation about like how not simple smart novels are in the grand scheme of things. There is obviously a stereotypical idea that they're very Harlequin based. They're very like one-dimensional like characters in the book, and that's it. Where that's obviously not the case for all smart novels, which is why it's important to like do your research on what book you read, because you're not, because if that's what you want, that's like not always what you're gonna get.
That's the thing, is I like with books, because it's like I feel like romance and erotica just get thrown into this general category together, but they're like every other category you could imagine, there is a subcategory in romance, or like
thriller crime, and then like, you know, like mob crime, and like whatever else. Absolutely. And I think that we are so lucky that the three of us have such different tastes. Like, for example, Betty with the like MCs and like the darker kind of grittier romances, and G with the crying and the fantasy, and myself with like the rom-coms, but also like I love all of those things. But because we've had that opportunity to introduce all those different types of smut levels to each other because the different books that we're reading, it's kind of given us an insight on what is at the different like allocations, essentially.
Like I think it like draws an interesting conclusion, which is like smut novels aren't always about the sex. Like we're girls who read porn, but sometimes these books aren't porn for us. Yeah. Like, and it's like you don't like, you know, like trying to explain to somebody that doesn't read these novels and like, oh, like you just want to get off. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's two types of books. You've got like your Katie Roberts, Your Dad Will Do, which is like, you want to get off.
It's gratuitous.
Like,
it's amazing. Like you need it, like if you just haven't gotten off in a couple of days, you're like, I need a bit of Your Dad Will Do.
Exactly. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, like this book or Pen Pal or something. Like it's not there to be like a hot, like get off kind of book. It's like there to invoke emotion, to like to express a story, to have a character development, like other books would have, like just like regular literature without smut would have, except from this one just has smut in it, which is like a normal part of like the human experience. And I think it's hard to have a character development novel without having what other like the world goes through, which is like finding romance and having sex.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. And I actually wanted to say I feel quite awkward going into this one saying favorite sex scenes, because I just,
we don't have to do that.
No, like we can. It doesn't bother me, but that was one of the other things that I wanted to bring up. Like, it just didn't seem like the right kind of book to go down that path, which is what this, like, this is the next thing that I was going to bring up, and it perfectly leads into it. Because, yes, some of the scenes were very hot and whatever else. Like, you know, the first time that he went down on her and she found out what, like, true joy in sex is, like, like truly, like, it was actually quite a beautiful thing that he managed to do that for her, and that was awesome. That was like another, that he managed to do that for her was like a favorite part, but I just couldn't.
It is weird, like, you know what, like, it is weird though that this book has had this effect on you, because we read Mindfuck and it didn't have the same effect on you. You found that book sexy, so it's like
it wasn't as, no, listen, the scene where they graphically explain what happened to them as children is one of the reasons why this book had such a massive effect on me. Mindfuck did not do that.
No, I'm not saying like, I'm not calling you out. Like, it's a normal opinion to have. It's just it's always interesting to see where, like, you know, people find, I guess, their own personal boundary, like their own line.
Do you think that, like, it's a testament to, like, her writing that she was able to create such a vivid image compared to?
She's an incredible writer. She is an incredible. I could never take that away from her. Lords of London Town. Like, I understand why she is one of Betty's favorite authors, 100%. Like, I could never take that away from you, Betty, because she's absolutely incredible. Her writing always, like, chef's kiss.
Yeah,
this chick knows what she's doing.
That's why I rate high, because I reckon, like, you should rate on the writing, not the content. Like, that's what I always do. I never rate on the content unless it's like fucking stupid content.
I couldn't not this time for myself. Like, I had to rate on the content because of that pre-forward as well. Like, it wasn't, it didn't hit it for me.
Yeah, fair.
But her writing's amazing. Yeah, like her writing
and her structure. Oh, it was such a clean structure in that book. It was
like,
so
she knows
easy to
how
read.
to fucking write a book. Tille Cole is incredible at it, and I would still read all of her other stuff. See, other times when I've given low ratings, like other authors that we've rated low, I would never read any of their other stuff though.
Yeah.
This is one of those authors that I just didn't like this book.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, it's like, I mean, that's what happens, right? Like, the content wasn't for you. It happens all the time. You're not going to like every book an author produces. Sometimes the content is just not for you. There's definitely books that I've read where I've been like, this is a really good book. I love the writing. Like, any rom-com novel, for example. Like, Lucy Score, amazing author, right? Love her writing. She writes amazingly. Content's not for me. It doesn't interest me particularly. Probably not going to read another one of her books, but that isn't because she's a bad writer. It's just because...
This season, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, not by choice.
Not of your own volition.
Yeah, and I didn't dislike the book. Like, the book wasn't a bad book. I would never categorize it as a bad book. Just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of like, I'll stick it with a 3. Like, I think that's why I gave it a 3, because it's just like,
not
whatever
for you.
To me. Yeah. But like, if people love those stories, like if you do like H.D. Carlton's, like, really, because I know a lot of people look for similar books to the Cat and Mouse duet. So many people are like, what is something that's this intense with smut in it? Read this book.
But I would say, but I get what you mean, because like, the content is similar, but like, I just don't want to put H.D. Carlton in the same box as Tille Cole.
No. Like, it's better.
No, but like, I know what you mean, but like, inside me, I feel like bad.
It makes you shave. Hi, dogs. It makes you shave. I understand that. I actually saw H.D. Carlton over the weekend. She's very lovely.
So I think what we can take away from this conversation is that there is a plethora of romance novels out there, and you're going to find books that you don't like, and you're going to find books that you like, and it's fine. Like, whatever books you read are fine. It is your body, your sexual liberation of your own choice. Whatever gets you off, whatever doesn't get you off, it's all for you. And there are books out there that are a hard read. You don't have to read them. Like, if
that's why we
listen to this episode, if you listen to this episode and you're like, "Oh, not for me," like, not my vibe, great. We have 100 other
no skin off our back.
Have 50 other episodes of different books that you can go through, and you can find something that's like exactly your taste, and we're not offended whatsoever.
Yeah, and we don't offend each other when we don't like each other's books either. So
no, it makes for good conversation.
I don't know. I got pretty angry about Detective Daddy.
I was just about to say she's going to bring up Detective Daddy again, because that one was a rough one for you. I think the only time we've ever had any offense about not liking a book is a Detective Daddy. But other than that, we're good.
But yeah, moral of the story, read what makes you happy, because that's why we read.
Yeah.
And speaking of reading...
Club. Start a book club and like get a different person who's got completely different tastes to recommend a book each month or each week or however else you want to do it, because
or treat us as a book club.
Ours as a book club, or treat ours as a book club, because the three of us have such different tastes, and it's like so many books that Betty and G have brought on. I've been like, holy fuck! Like Sea of Ruin still destroys me. It's like my favorite ever. And Lord of London Town by Tille Cole, incredible. Do you know how many people read that book after that fucking episode, because we fucked that episode up so much that they had to read it?
So terribly.
That was chef's kiss, that episode.
Because that's what Tille Cole does, right? Like, her books are so complicated. They're so convoluted. There's so much happening.
Very
interesting. We gave up synopsises, because we just couldn't fucking do it after that. And I actually got messages on our Instagram going, we don't know what happened, we just decided to read it.
We're like,
and look, everyone
really good. Like, we hinted just enough to make people want to read it.
It was 5 stars, but nobody could understand why it was 5 stars.
Oh my god. And that's why I love Tille Cole. I'll always love Tille Cole.
She's amazing.
She's like, if you're into these kind of books, like, start with Lord of London Town, because that's quite dark, but it's like not the same level of dark as what we've just read.
It's more violent. Murder.
Yeah, start with Lord of London Town. If you can stomach that, maybe like switch to her like other books that aren't Hades Hangman. See if you can like deal with that kind of like dark romance if it's for you, and then maybe jump into Hades Hangman. Like, but like
Hades Hangman
this isn't like
wild.
This isn't like a dip your toe into dark romance book. This is like, if you're an avid fan of dark romance, like, pick up this book. If you've never read a dark romance, find something else first. Like, Mindfucked. Read Mindfucked. Read Lord of London Town. Read those kind of books. And then jump into this.
Yeah.
Even
I think, like, if you go into our history of episodes, there are a lot of dark romances that you can start off with, and this isn't one of them. Like Strangers in My Bed, no. This one, no. There are other ones. Those ones, I feel like we need like the 2 roughest books.
We need like beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Yeah, like That's It Hurt, It Ain't Me, Babe, and Strangers in My Bed are the 3 which we do not recommend starting off with.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't even do Does It Hurt, but if you like H.D. Carlton,
I just wouldn't read Does It Hurt because it's just not good. It doesn't matter what level it's at, it's just not very good.
Speaking about H.D. Carlton, I saw her at Babe.
Oh god, that makes me feel terrible.
Yeah, all went to Babe, which is a community of people who love reading.
Holy fuck. Okay, so I called the girls because what happened was I picked up one of my girlfriends who came down from Queensland, and I was like, oh, let's go grab lunch and stuff, and then I'll see you at Babe tomorrow. And like when we talk in everyday life, we just talk about normal things. But then like when we were in person, and because it's a book weekend, listen, I heard the words FMC, the words H, all of the freaking
the lingo
were said to my face. And I was like, where am I? And I don't actually know what you're saying to me. But then I noticed that everyone is like that, and they all talk to each other like that. And they had like their TikTok groups that they went out to dinner with, and there were brunches with the authors and the VIPs and the fucking whatever else.
It makes you realize how much we're outside of the community. We're outside of the community so much.
We are so beyond that. Listen, Betty, I was so lost when I walked up to Elle Thorpe, because I obviously attacked every single amazing author there. I walked up to Elle Thorpe and I was like, hi, we want to get you onto the podcast. And she was like, oh my God, I love you guys. And I was like, oh my God, I love you too. And I have news about her next trilogy, by the way, she told me, because I can finagle anyone to tell me stuff. She is Australian. And I was like going up to some girlfriends and I was like, did you know that Elle Thorpe is Australian? And they're like, who the fuck are you? Obviously.
You don't know that?
You don't know that? And
that's what I mean.
Hey, James is from Dubbo. And they were like, yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, we are, as much as like, I don't know, we're somewhat representatives of the community, but like not the good ones.
Like, no, don't say that. We're fantastic representatives of the community. And I think one of the most shocking things for me is a few people did come up to me and they were like, oh my God, you're Ola from Girls Who Read Porn. And I was like, who?
I am. Hello. I reckon we're representative of like 85% of the community, which is just people that just casually read romance on their Kindles, just normal everyday people, right? But the 15% are the people that are just so active in the community.
It is, but it's like I feel like without them we would be lost, because they're the ones who sit on Smut, Bang, wherever else, Cliterature, all of those pages. And if I said to them, I need a book with a blue werewolf that has a dick on his forehead and the female is a baboon, they would give me 17 different recs, right?
They did. They're like
they know everything.
For romance books.
Oh, yeah.
We walked like up. So I was talking to Katie Knight, K.A. Knight, and incredible human, by the way. She is the most Geordie person I've ever met in my life in person. Like, she was fucking next level. And one of the girls looked at a book there and she's like, oh my God, I didn't know that was part of the part 6 anthology of this and this and this and this and this author. And I'm like, dude, it's a fucking book name. How do you even know that? And she goes, oh, because it's a similar book name to this and this and this. And then that links up to this author who did the first part of that. And I was like, are we in the same country? Like, I don't actually understand
what language are you speaking?
Yeah, so it was really amazing. And so Babe was much more of a fantastical kind of book conference, where there were a lot more fantasy authors than you would normally find at another book conference. And when you walked in, there were dragons and lights and flowers and people hanging off the ceiling in silk, and on those silk things that they do the spinny things and whatever. And the day before they had strippers, Magic Mike, and that totally ended up well for the strippers. And they had like, cover models there and vagina smelling candles and just everything that you could possibly imagine was there. And there was over 200 authors or something. Like, it was absolute insanity. The lines for Penn Douglas, for example, like, everyone is given a sticker to wait, and it immediately went up to like 300 or 400 people within the first.
Waiting for Penelope Douglas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man.
So she deserves it.
Out that if I just walked up to an author and I was like, hi, I just need to quickly grab a business card. I'm from a podcast called Girls Who Read Porn and we want you on the podcast. They'd be like, oh yeah, no worries. And they just wrote down their email address and gave it to me and I ran away. So I didn't have to wait in any lines because they would like,
you sneaky bastard.
No, I know, but I didn't ask for any signatures or any photos and I wasn't trying to talk to them. I was just trying to get their emails. So I was like weaseling my way through them. And then I walked up to J.A. Lowe and I was like, hi, my name's Ola. I'm from Girls Who Read Porn. And she's like, oh my God, I love you guys. And I was like, fuck me. fuck me, we're getting somewhere. And it felt so good. And I was just like, you know what?
Was it weird?
We're doing something good out there, but we are honestly nobodies. We know nothing.
Yeah, of course.
No, we know nothing.
But was it weird meeting authors in person that we'd spoken to online?
Yes. So I met Sam Hall. And I saw Sarah Kate, and we waved at each other, but her line was just, and I didn't want to.
I could imagine it was.
No. I was like, honestly, she was in her own version of hell, I'm pretty sure. So I was just like, I'm gonna leave you to it. But we waved at each other, and she's like, oh, and I was like, ah, and I was like, Sarah Kate. But Sam Hall and we sat there for 2 hours talking, and she was telling other authors, she's like, you got to get on this podcast. These bitches are fucking hilarious. And I was like, I love you. Like, you're one of my favorite people. But we've got listen, some of the authors who have agreed to come on, if you've found us through our 50th episode, stick around because you're going to fucking die when you hear of the authors that we've organised to come onto the podcast through going to Babe. And Babe was ball gowns and book events, right? So everyone was in a ball gown.
Except for
you.
One
of
Except
the
for
odd
you.
ones out. I know. I feel like I confused a lot of people, like why I was there. They were just
you need like a press badge, so you can just be like,
I probably look
like
for
a reason.
I asked them for one, and they were like, "We don't do press."
They probably thought you were like an event organizer.
I know. I did. No, actually, I didn't look like an event organizer. The event organizers were walking around in ball gowns that lit up. With big fucking sticks with like lights on the end of this, like what's it called?
Well, you probably look like someone that was like escaped the back room.
Dude, I looked like I was like, I honestly.
You were there to like stock tables?
Yeah,
or like pick up rubbish.
I think maybe I kind of looked like somebody who was in there trying to work out like how human experiment or something.
A scientist.
Yeah, like I was just there trying to work out like what the fuck was going on, because I first walked in and somebody looked at me and they were like, you look very confused, and I'm like, I think I'm having a bit of a fucking overload right now, and they're like, that's understandable, just go take a seat. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, look, you can sit on the dragon over there, and I'm like, what the fuck? Do I want to sit in the high heel or on the dragon?
Oh my god, I think I will never attend one of these events.
I don't think I can.
So if you're ever planning on, I don't know, if you're ever planning on meeting me in person, just like get rid of that dream.
Bad news. Yeah. Next year.
I can't. I don't even do you guys. Never mind like public spaces.
I feel because you're the most confident. You're like the most extroverted one probably out of the three of us. And if you struggled, me and Betty would like shut down within 10 minutes. We'd just be like, we'll just go sit in the toilet for a while.
I know, and I literally spoke to probably about 200 or 300 people. I walked up to someone and I'd be like, who are you here to see? Because I wanted to know, like, who are the authors that people want to hear from? And there were authors that I'd never heard of before, who are absolutely incredible. And when I heard about their books and whatever else, I'm like, we have to get them on. Like, I'm so excited to hear from them. And like, I was stopping every second person going, tell me, like, who is amazing? Like, I want to know who you're here for. Because as much as the big authors were there, they weren't there for the big authors. They were there for their favorite little indie author who hasn't been heard of before, but they just absolutely loved one of their series, and they had to get every single book signed. There was a girl there. I think I told you guys about this yesterday. There was a girl there who got 90 pre-orders, 400 books. She's from the USA. She had 25 kilos, 7 bags, 25 kilos each, schlepped back to the US.
That's too much.
Wait, do you want to tell them about the publisher drama if people don't know?
The what?
Oh,
the printing dramas.
Like the book printing dramas.
Everyone fucking shit on Calligraphy Printing Sydney right now. Go on their Instagram and tell them that they're a piece of shit, because it turns out it was only the special editions that they didn't print. They were specifically there to do, because for each event, right, they have a special edition printed for each author for those.
Yeah,
books.
So it'd be like an exclusive thing. Like you go to Babe, you get like
Yeah. Nothing was printed. They emailed the authors a couple of days before going, sorry, just can't do it. and then they shut everything down, all their contacts, all their social media.
Jesus.
Like, bye. Yeah,
wow.
it was wild, but it was just it was like a human experiment. It was interesting to watch. Like I want to go again, but like I want to go in like a bubble, like one of those like big bubble things, and just like roll around and watch with like a video camera.
Just like
maybe if we had
slightly
like
above.
Yeah.
If we did have like a press pass or like t-shirts, then we would
know. And like I think about you two going, and I don't think you would walk up to the chick with the tiara. Like some of the headpieces, by the way, anyone's listening and you fucking went above and beyond. They were stunning. They had like antlers coming out of their heads and flowers, like literally massive headpieces, massive. I've never seen anything like I was speaking to Angel, I don't know what her surname is. Anyway, the one that writes Lords of Pain, one of the Angel Lawson, I don't know.
I think
Lawson. And I was like, this is mental. Like this is out of control. Like how do people do this? And she's like, this is Comic-Con for romance. Like this is literally the Comic-Con. And we've got it in Sydney. It's one of the biggest events in the world, and it was fucking massive. Man. And it was insane. It was madness.
I just think you should keep me in a cupboard, because if you take me to one of those events, we'll lose our podcast.
I think maybe that's why I'm a little bit more, a lot of people recognize me when it comes to the podcast, because I do put my face out there and I do force myself into people's lives. So unfortunately, I am the face of it forever. Like,
yeah.
at least.
Like, fine.
I know you both don't care at all. And I'm like, we need to get our names out there. Let's go on Instagram and do a story. But he's like, I don't do that. That's not my job.
You would tell us we'll do like one story and then that'll be it. And then
I know, and I've had to nag you guys so many fucking times.
You know what, like, the weird thing is, right, before we started this podcast, and it was just like an idea, like, I was like, it's not going to succeed, like, I'll be fine. Because my worst fear in life is, like, being famous. Like, having, like, people know what my face looks like, not being able to, like, walk down, like, if we ever got, like, I'm not saying that we're at that point or we ever will be, but my worst fear is, like, not being able to, like, walk down the street without someone knowing who I am. Like, I have extensively, like, I've moved countries, I have, like, started my life again just to avoid, like, people that I never want to see again, and then to, like, have that taken away from me. I don't think you have
that problem in New Zealand. I'm just saying, like, when it comes to our listeners, New Zealand's not an issue. You'll be fine.
No,
if we walked through New York City or London, we would have a problem, because that's like, we've got thousands of listeners in those cities, like thousands. But like, yeah, nobody gives a shit. I could, like, literally Bob next door is like, Ola, sort out your fucking bins. Like, we're not going to have any problems. We'll be fine.
I don't know. Like, you've been to a couple events in Australia where strangers have been like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, you've been recognized.
I have been. And it's been,
like, non-book related events, I should say.
Because I'm like, are you sure it's me that you're trying to talk to? Like, are you sure that I'm the person that you're trying to have a conversation with right now?
Just like clarifying, you do mean Ola from Girls Who Read Porn, right?
Yeah, I'm like, are you talking about like, do you know me because I ripped you off on something? Like, how do we know each other? Like, did I like run over your cat? Is that how you know my name? Like, what's the deal here? But no, like, people listen to us. Hi, why, whatever, I don't know. But they love it, and we should be very proud of what we do. But I think we need to be super upfront with our listeners that we are novices. We came into this as novices. We are not hardcore.
We're not entertainers.
I should also probably disclaim that I love our fans, and I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah, fans are great. People that listen to them are so good.
Deeply love them. I'm just so socially awkward, and it's not your fault. It's my problem.
Oh my God.
But like, why do you think she reads so much? She doesn't go out.
I force her to talk to me, and we're on a fucking podcast together. But outside of the podcast, it's literally all by force. It's not by like choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was incredible. I definitely think if you haven't been to one, go to a book event, but be smart if you're only planning to ever go to, because this is the other thing. This was the holiday of a lifetime for so many people. Like,
yeah, you're going to
so many
fucking
people,
Australia?
like, this is the only holiday I'm going on in the next 5 years. And they're people from Australia, people who have 5 children, and their husbands are like, I'll do it for one weekend and this is all you've got. And they turned up with $3,000-$4,000 and just went nuts on books, right?
Yeah, fucking, it's amazing.
Whereas I went into it going, Josh, can you drop me off in the morning? I bought a $70 ticket off some chick in the Gold Coast, and I've got like $20 for my GYG for lunch. So it was a very different experience for me than for them, because there was like $400 tickets that people were buying to have brunches and VIPs.
Well, people are coming from all over the world. Like, you're flying from like the UK, America. Those are like 26, 30-hour flights. Like,
I know, I've got business cards for people from the States.
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
this is a big deal to come all that way.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It was mind-boggling, and everyone there was stunning, and I was a fish out of water, and I was very lucky. I have to say thank you to one of my girlfriends. I'm not going to say her name because she probably doesn't want it public. But at lunchtime, I was like, I am so out of depth here. Write me a list of who I need to go speak to. Then she gave me the map. I circled the map of everyone who I needed to go speak to. And I'm like, hello, I've been told to come and invite you onto the podcast. Can I please have your email address? I've heard you're amazing. Really like you so far. Let's do it. And they're like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Thank you. And then I got email addresses. Can you hear her?
I had left my microphone on mute.
I was like, what are you saying?
I was just saying that it's like you've got to be really smart when you go to things like that. Like, you've got to, almost like if you go to like an amusement park or something and you've only got a day pass, you've got to plan out where you're going to go, like the most efficient way to get places.
Yeah. 30,000.
Does it happen every year?
6 hours. So last time they did it was 2 years ago. It's Tate James and Jamin Eve. I don't know what the other author's name is. But last time that they did it, it was 2 years ago, and they said that's the last time they're doing it. This time they did it, they said it's the last time they're doing it.
Okay, so we'll see.
So we'll see it again in 2 years.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
It would be a lot of work for them.
They hate doing it, and then they're like, oh, it's kind of like having a baby. Like, you have a baby, and then 2 years later, you're like, let's have another one.
Like, oh, it's so much fun though last time.
It's literally what I thought of when they told me that they kept saying that it was the last one.
Yeah.
But next big event is in Australia. If you're Australians and listening, we've got Rare in Brisbane in 2025, which is like a big one. I know that there's one in Newcastle in a few months, in Adelaide in September, which is called Friction and Fiction.
Love that.
I thought that name was amazing.
That's great.
The one in the Gold Coast in February is called Love on the Beach or something. So, there's so many options in every single city in Australia. So you have options.
I think New Zealand has probably never hosted a romance.
They've got one in Auckland. Ugh. But you wouldn't even know about it because
you like 30 people going. Like,
I think I'd like to go to one. I think I could do it once just to experience it.
Well, I think in Canada next year.
Okay, but I feel like I would need to take a lot of breaks and I would require a lot of patience.
I would just walk around talking to people. I literally was walking up to people going, hi, you look amazing. Who are you here to see today? But I had to nap afterwards because I used all my extra work. That was it. Like, that was all I had for the day. I was done, and then I took a 2-hour nap and I went out for dinner. So, perfect. Yeah, that was Babe. It was a lot, but it was incredible. And it was just fucking mind-boggling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. What are we doing? Well, thanks everybody for listening. Scarlet?
Even though we've already... Saffron. Next week is Saffron.
Next week is Saffron.
Okay, so we
next week is Saffron.
Oh, wait.
No. So what's happened is Saffron could only record yesterday, but the episode with Saffron comes out after this episode. So next week is Saffron A. Kent. Yeah, I know. So you're going to hear.
I thought last week was Saffron, and then.
Nah. It ain't me, babe, first. And then Saffron.
50th. No, it's Saffron first.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, it is Saffron first. Yeah, so we've already had Saffron.
It ain't me.
Nope, we've already had Saffron.
Oh, no, because it was meant to be the 50th episode was It Ain't Me, babe. Yeah. That was the original. Yeah. That's where I'm confused. So next
we're doing Ruthless.
Yeah. By the Twisted Sisters.
Yeah.
Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Betty's already struggling.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't read
It is a lot. It's meaty. It's so meaty. But I loved it. Yeah. So enjoy.
Nice. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Girls Who Read Porn. Follow us at Girls Who Read Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And for all business inquiries, please send us an email on girlswhoreadporn@gmail.com. Art created by Jessica Wanney, and music made by Dane Forgy Stevens. See you next week, and stay smutty, team.